TV 79 on the record. Welcome. Tonight is Tuesday, September 13th. We're in Town Hall at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. It's a general meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody back from the August time off. I am the Vice Chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and in the month of August, we lost two commissioners. One would be Kevin Cunningham, who was the secretary, and two would be John Sini, who was the chairman. So we have two empty chairs we're going to fill tonight. The order of agenda tonight is the first thing in the general meeting, election of officers. Since we now have, I'm the vice chairman, since we now have a chairman or a secretary, we have to elect officers. Any special protocol you want to go through, Jeremy?
No, usually the way it works is a commission member will nominate someone, they'll get seconded, and then you vote on each office, if you will. Usually chairman first, and then you work your way through.
Okay.
I would like to nominate Mr. Albany for the position of chairman of the
Thank you,
commission.
sir.
Second? Going to, yes?
Nominations closed. Anybody else?
Aye.
You got it.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Next up, we have the vice chairman position. I would like to nominate Jennifer as the vice chairman.
Second?
Well, any more nominations?
No.
Nominations are closed. I'd like to call for a vote.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Yes.
4-0. Thirdly, we have to fill the position of secretary for the Planning and Zoning Commission. Do we have any nominations for that?
I would like to nominate Liz Riva.
Thank you.
I will second that.
Thank you very much.
Any more nominations?
Not for
Nominations are
me.
not closed. I'd like to vote on that. All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Okay, great.
Welcome, everybody. This is the new election of officers. The second thing on our agenda tonight is the appointment of new members to replace Mr. Sini, which I spoke about a minute ago, and Kevin Cunningham. The town clerk is here tonight to swear in our new members if they get elected. We have two candidates. One, John Sini, was a Republican, so we have a Republican replacement candidate, and we have a Democratic replacement candidate, which is replacing Cunningham. It's a little bit different this go around. In past priors, we've had at Planning and Zoning Commission meetings, we used to go into executive session, take whatever applications came up that were put together by either DTC or the respective RTC. Then the commission pretty much votes on who they want to edit. And this year it's a little bit different. It is an election year. We have two candidates that have already been endorsed by their respective town committees. I think we have Kara Gately from the Republican side and George Riley from the Democratic side. Any other thing you wanted to say before?
Nope, that summarized it very well.
I would just like to have the two candidates before we vote on them, just to give a 2-minute commercial, if you don't mind, on what your background is. Ladies first. Yeah, why don't you both come on up, introduce yourselves to the commission, other commission members, to the public, to the offices. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you, commissioners, for welcoming us tonight and having us here. I'd like to start off by thanking all of you for your service and commitment to the town of Darien, and for the amount of time away from your families and your jobs and your hobbies and whatever you like to do to carry out this important work for our town. It's important to have people who are dedicated, smart, and committed carry out and consider these issues, because carrying out the town's development plan and considering both planning and zoning issues and land use issues is actually really, really important to quality of life, property values, and a myriad of other things that really adds to the value of people's lives and their homes and their families. So I just wanted to start off by thanking all of you for that.
So why are you doing this thing?
So why am I doing it? So my husband and I moved to this town 13 years ago, and we didn't really know, we'd never heard of Darien before, and we love the town. We haven't looked back a second since we moved here, and we've been, just welcomed by the town, and in return, we've sort of like embraced the town back. My husband, Pat Gately, and I have both served in a number of different capacities. Pat has coached, I think, 12, 13 years, both on the lacrosse fields, baseball fields, and on the football fields. I'm sure a few of you may know him, or your kids, maybe your sons do. I have, served, in a number of, PTO volunteer committees and ways at Ox Ridge and at Middlesex Middle School, as well as Opus for Person to Person and the Darien Community Fund. And so we just love the small town feel of Darien, while it also offers a full variety of arts, restaurants, recreation, leisure. It feels peaceful despite what 95 is like at times. And so we just love living here. And I think coming from Long Island, which changed so much and is so congested and so stressful at times, we really just value the peaceful small town, really community feel that you find here in Darien, and the level of commitment of friends and neighbors. Almost everyone here is doing something to be involved in the town, and I think that's so important. And everyone kind of knows everyone, or is 1 degree removed from everybody. So I think that's why I want to continue to be involved. I am an attorney by practice and trade. I started my career at the Securities and Exchange Commission. So, interpreting, regulating, and enforcing the 33 and 34 Act, which are securities laws, and then the regulations thereunder. And so I'm very comfortable, reading, interpreting, and understanding regulations, and then applying those regulations to facts and circumstances and a greater plan and vision. And so I understand how to do that. I'm very comfortable doing that. And I've spent, the greater part of my legal career, balancing facts and circumstances and applying them to, the regulations, and trying to understand, and sort of do that with a view of public policy needs as well. So, that's why I think I'd be good, and those are the reasons why I sort of am interested in doing this. And so I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for stepping up to the plate. Mr. Riley?
Great, thanks.
Just a couple minutes. Thank you.
Well, I'm certainly glad this is not a contest against Sharon Gately. So I am George Riley. I am delighted to be here. I am a native of Darien. I have married a native of Darien. We have lived here all of our lives, but for a short stint over in West Norwalk. And we may have actually been closer to the Darien line than we are now, and it's pretty darn close. But I am a local attorney. I've been practicing law for about 35 years. Much of that right here in Darien, and I'm currently with the Rucci Law Group. And my focus, though, is on family law, as well as doing, of course, real estate, estate planning, that kind of thing with the other attorneys in my firm. Early in my career, I did appear at this very podium in front of that dais, generally addressing, however, the Zoning Board of Appeals. And working on variances and that sort of thing. I have never appeared in front of P&Z, and I profess no expertise in the P&Z's work. I have been intimidated already by getting the plan of conservation and development, which I have gone through, but I cannot say I'm any expert in that, along with the zoning regulations. But I'm very interested in it, and I'm sure that with Kara's help and others that we can work through it. I have been involved in Darien for really all of my, certainly the years I've been practicing law. I started with the Charter Revision Commission. I was a member of the Board of Selectmen around the turn of the century, actually. And following that, I was a member of the Planning and Zoning, Board of Education for about a dozen years. I chaired the Darien Police Headquarters Building Committee, and I think that's about it for my Darien service. I am proud to say I'm currently involved with the Norwalk Community College Foundation as a member of that board, and have been involved in various other nonprofit organizations. So enough about me. Thank you for that opportunity, however, and I look forward to serving with you should you vote accordingly.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for our two candidates?
I have a quick question. Mr. Riley, I appreciate so much your background's stellar, and you volunteering. I know what it entails, and it's a lot of getting up to speed with all this regulation. But I do wonder that the Rucci Law Group is up in front of us every other meeting, and I wonder if how we would handle that
I'm
conflict of
guessing
interest.
it isn't actually that often, and I've talked with Amy Zabatakis, who is the principal attorney who does zoning work, and she doesn't believe it will be that often. I will step back, I will recuse myself when and if Amy does appear here, and I wouldn't have taken this on if I thought that was going to be too often. But I don't believe it will, and neither does Amy.
Just to add to that, I did hear that same thing. He worked for the Rucci Law Group. I've been on a commission where people that have worked at CBRE have also been here. I think sometimes I've recused myself, sometimes I've not. It's the way it's written is conflict and compensation. Like if he was getting compensated by Amy's work, you could see that's part of it, and I don't think you.
That wouldn't apply.
Yeah, like.
But even for the appearance of it, I think if Amy's here, I would not be involved.
In my opinion, you can do it case by case basis. But that's
Good,
up to
yeah,
you.
Yeah,
there
you
would
need
be a Chinese wall.
Any
Okay,
other
thank you.
questions?
Thank you.
Okay, are we ready to vote? I see we vote on both candidates at the same time.
Sure.
Okay. All those in favor of adding Mr. Riley and Mrs. Gately to the commission, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No? Welcome aboard. You have been so elected or so appointed.
Gotta get sworn in.
Now we're going to ask Donna Rudczewski to swear on our new candidates, and they will get their posted plaque. We good, Jeremy?
How'd you have those made so fast?
Little presumption.
solemnly swear that you will faithfully discharge according to all
Should,
your duties as members of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the town of Darien to the best of your ability. So help you God.
I do.
Congratulations.
Thanks very much.
You might have.
Yes, you did. I have pictures. Oh, no, not.
Thank you, Donna.
The last time we were
Appreciate
out.
it.
Better than the next one.
Please, take your.
Yep.
If you're here. Yes, they put your plate up.
George is
Thank
next
you.
to.
Oh, they did? Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
we're very quick.
Liz, I'm sorry, we haven't even met.
That's fine.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
I'm Bonnie.
And this is Bonnie, our
This runs the
court
committee.
reporter. Is it court reporter? Sounds like I don't know that. But- And I take it you guys know everybody else?
Yes.
Okay. Jim Rand, Jennifer Leahy, Fred, and Jeremy. Okay?
Very good.
All set? Good. Okay. On to the agenda.
Would you like me to read
Sure.
as your new secretary?
Does
I
it?
know, okay, proceeding on with we've now finished our election of officers and appointment of new members. So we'll begin our informal discussion regarding the potential redevelopment of 7 Sedgwick Avenue, the former Bank of America property.
Right, in this case, Chip Platts is here to informally describe to the commission what his thoughts are on the redevelopment of the Bank of America property on Sedgwick. The state statutes, Connecticut Statute 7-159B, allow the Planning and Zoning Commission to conduct a pre-application review of a proposed project with the applicant at the applicant's request. The statutes specifically say that such pre-application review and any results or information obtained from it may not be appealed under the statutes and shall not be binding on the applicant or any authority. So when I spoke to Mr. Platts earlier, I said, you know, this is really a non-binding thing from the commission. You're going to get feedback tonight. You may get feedback through me later in the week, but it's really an opportunity for you to put your plan out there, get a sense from the commission what information you'll need if he's preparing an application, what issues may come up during the hearing, and the general tenor of their thoughts and process. We've been working together now for a couple months on his idea for the property. Certainly, if he puts together a full application, it would first go to the Architecture Review Board and then come to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a site plan, special permit, and a flood application because part of the property is in the flood zone. So I'll let Chip and his team give you a little background and information, and then certainly any feedback you have tonight is helpful, but certainly if you want to call me or Fred during the week and say, you know, I thought more about it, I had some ideas, they're going to give us some plans to bring home, and give us a call during the week, and we'll give them a call next week with any other thoughts you have beyond tonight.
Just as a little bit of background, thank you, Chairman. Just a little bit of background. The Carbon District, David Genovese's project, that was also a pre-application meeting. We did it in August one year. Another recent, or two other recent ones are, is it John DeCaro's property? I always call it 1850. That's not
1950 and 1958, in the road where Roost is.
correct.
There
Those
was
were
a lot of steps
pre-applications.
involved.
And the other one that was also pre-application was 50 Brookside, which was a house that was moved and not moved, and that one eventually, after the pre-application went forward, it eventually got denied.
Right.
So there's no guarantees.
Yes.
I'll tell you that.
My name is Mark.
Please go up to the podium, introduce yourself, and then,
You have to be on the microphone and on the television
Thank you.
video, I should say.
My name is Mark Andre. I'm a licensed architect out of Fairfield, Connecticut, and I'm working with Chip Platts.
Could
And
you
I'm
spell your last name for me, please?
Andre, Andre.
Thank you very much.
And I'm here tonight to show you guys what we are planning to do with this project and hopefully get some positive feedback so we can actually make a formal application.
Andres, your first name or last name?
Mark. Mark is my first name.
Okay, thank you. Just as another piece of background, this property is on the market for sale.
Oops.
You'll need this. Great.
Yep,
Yep, we're good.
It's widely marketed by a large real estate, global real estate company.
So this is the owner's proposal for the.
This is a potential, from my understanding, it's a potential buyer's proposal of a property. It is, I don't 100% know if it's owned by the Bank of America or not, I forget. I worked on it years and years and years ago. I worked on this site years ago. It's behind 800 Post Road, which is the office building where Burger Shakes and Fries is and the bar is.
Oh, I was going the other way.
It's at the front
It
door.
used to be a walk-up ATM. When you're entering, it's a circle of Goodwills.
It's at the entrance to Goodwise Shopping Center.
Yeah.
There's a laser pointer there, Mark.
It was the game across from the
I
shelter.
know.
There's a laser pointer on the
I
corner.
was so intended to say that.
Okay, sir. Sherry, what zone is it in?
This is in the CBD zone. So this is downtown, where 2 stories are allowed, but a 3rd story is allowed if you provide a public plaza, and Chip and I have discussed that. You also get the issue here with an apartment building, or condominiums, depending on what Chip and his team decide to do, is we get into the issue of inclusionary zoning. You have to then provide some affordable units, but in return for the affordable units, under section 580, there's provision for a bonus. Third, reduction of parking and some other things. And we've gone through those in detail in terms of what bonuses are available, which ones they might need. So it's a delicate thing, because as you build certain units, you have to then create some affordable units. You then need more parking, but you can get the parking waved down. So it's a lot of interrelated facts. And as I mentioned, that part of the property is in the flood zone, so they can't really have any units on the first floor. All they can have really on the first floor is the elevator and the stairway, but they can't really have enclosed living space on the first floor. So the first floor here would just be parking and access to get to the 2 upper floors.
Okay, so, high level, it's a half-acre site, and you're proposing 20 apartment units, combination 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms?
So,
In a 3-story building, which is really 2 stories over parking.
correct.
Okay.
So currently, there's a vacant former Bank of America building there with plenty of parking spaces. The property is in the flood zone. I believe the flood elevation is a couple of feet and a half above existing grade. So it probably wouldn't be suited for retail space, because you would have to elevate the floor and things like that, as the planner said. So what we're proposing is a elevated 2-story apartment building with garage spaces underneath. We shift in this existing curb cut to provide two-way entrances here, and then we're gonna go under the building, exit out, and then go back under. So most of the parking spaces are under the building, and then this will provide the emergency exit or drop-off area, or loading or access to a garbage area, Old Kings Highway. And then this is another one-way exit of Sedgwick Avenue.
Excuse me, if you could go around the other side, because I'm private folks picking you up, and I know they're having trouble picking you
Sure.
up. You have to be facing where the microphones are.
Her microphone, Bonnie's microphone is the other one.
Yeah.
Oh, this one?
One is
TV
for
set.
television and one is for me.
Oh,
TV 79 is the.
Thank you.
it's my first time here.
No,
so.
thank you so much, I appreciate
Okay.
your help.
So what we propose it's a 20 apartment units building. There will be 6 one-bedroom, 14 two-bedroom, and out of the 20 units, there will be 2 reserved for low market rate units.
What's our regulation, Jeremy, 10% or 12%?
12%.
So you're missing 2%.
Right, well, we talked about that. That is one of the issues that he's presenting to the commission is, does he provide the third unit or pay a fee in lieu? And we'd have to, Chip and I haven't gone into, done the math to figure out what that fee in lieu is for that 0.2 units.
Okay.
It's 2.4.
I'm sorry, can you
Come up to the podium.
introduce yourself and speak into the microphone?
Hi, Chip Platts, how are you? So it's 2.4 units, so it's under 2.5 units. So we were discussing what would the fee would be back to the town for a 0.4 unit. It doesn't quite meet a half a unit.
No, we just did that over at, the money that went into the trust fund went to Old Town Hall Homes. Where did that money come from?
That came from when David Genovese built
Yes,
745
yes,
Boston Post Road, which ironically is
Out of
across the
Canada.
street from Old Town Hall Homes.
Okay.
He built 6 units. He paid a
Great.
fee in lieu, it was $362,000.
Great.
And that was sitting there for about 5 or 6 years, and that money is going toward the construction of Old Town Hall Homes.
Right. And it's the developer's option
Yeah.
of what they can do with our approval. Because you can build them on-site, build them off-site, you can do a deed in lieu.
How much is the .4?
The math changes all the time.
It does?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's based on everything, but also it's predicated based upon market. David Genovese built the house, the building on Academy, 8 years ago, 7 years ago. So that's how much change.
yeah, the formula, which Chip and I
We don't have to
talked
get into,
about,
we don't have to get into
is in
details, this is
Appendix
just,
E of the regulations, so we'll have to go through that together.
Okay, thank you.
okay. So it's 12% affordable housing.
Okay.
And in terms of your math, you want to do the two sites, the 2 affordable units on-site?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. 2 on site, and I would assume payment in lieu will be worked out between my client and the town.
Okay. We have to do, is a ratio, you can't do 2 one-bedrooms, right?
You have, to. It's proportional, we
No,
talked
so-
about that. It would be 1 two-bedroom and 1 one-bedroom.
So I thought-
That's correct.
Okay.
Can you just repeat that? I'm sorry.
When you do affordables, you have to do, the other example that's very similar to this is Leroy West.
Yeah.
77 Leroy, it's the same exact type of building.
Yeah.
That's 30%. But you have to do, if you had all 2 bedrooms, you can't do 2 one-bedroom affordables. They have to be like kind.
Got it.
Similar.
Okay, right, the case, I
Right.
understood, okay.
So they land up having to do 1 one-bedroom affordable and 1 two-bedroom
Okay.
affordable.
One.
Okay. Please proceed, sir.
Okay. So we're providing 40 spaces for.
I'm sorry, you need to.
Just spread the microphone
I'm
too.
so sorry.
Yeah.
You can
So-
move the, why don't you, yeah.
Yeah, so we are providing 40 spaces for the entire complex. Out of the 40 spaces, we have our handicap spaces closer to the main entrance. So that's the center core of the building that give us access to this area and to this portion of the parking garage, and as well as here in the site plan. And then this will be our elevator floor. We're providing 2 means of egress for emergency. This is a staircase, and this is another one right here.
We also providing a bike rack storage area for our tenants. And this one, I think my client had some conversation with the town about providing a drop-off area or loading area, so we elected to locate it in this part of the building, which also give us access to the recycling center area, which will also be under the building.
Hold on one second. Jeremy, what's the parking per dwelling unit requirement? 2 per thousand. I mean, 2 per dwelling unit seems high.
2.5 per dwelling unit is the requirement, but it can be reduced. One thing we talked about under section 585 is, as part of the inclusionary zoning, parking requirements may be reduced. The commission has the ability of reducing it by up to 25%, which would come down from 2.5 to 1.87. So we discussed it. He said, look, it's easier, rounder numbers. I'll provide 2 spaces per unit, which would be 40 spaces for the 20 proposed units.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have any questions about the site plan? Yes, ma'am.
I have
It's
a
just-
question.
Please.
It looks just on the drawings, that it's very close to the curb. What are the setback requirements in the CBD right now?
In the CBD zone, there's 0 setbacks. So if you think of like the various downtown buildings close to the road, they can be right up to the road, and then on the side yards as well.
However, we have this new model block sidewalk, correct?
It's not necessarily on every single.
Is there
street.
any sidewalk on Sedgwick?
There's a sidewalk around the whole building.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, you had, I'm sorry.
So in the
No,
dash,
I'm sorry.
they show the sidewalk here. You can see it on the plan. This is on the survey, that it starts, can you show that, Mark?
Along the building, it goes down this way. And this is the existing sidewalk.
There's an existing sidewalk on Sedgwick. Is there a sidewalk on Lokhin Sandwich?
There's a small little section right here.
Because that's where the front door of the bank branch was. You used to park on the side, walk
Yeah,
around the
this is the
building.
public parking. Okay.
Right now, I'm talking below. You're okay.
Yes.
I mean, that's gonna be the road and sidewalk. This is okay. Anybody on this side have any questions at this point? Good? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So as far as the architecture, I can walk you through the preliminary plan that we worked on, and we can get back to the renderings. So whatever leftover space, we are planning to do some landscaping, along this public parking, this parking area. This is also the public parking, so any leftover, we'll, put some grass and vegetations. So when you come down from Sedgwick, you can either enter the building or walk down the sidewalk. This will be our main entrance with the center corridor that gives you access to 2 elevators, or you can either use the staircase, or if you park here, you can enter the building this way, or if you park here, you can enter the building this way. So we have 3 entry points to the main lobby.
So if I may, the main entrance, I'm looking at drawing C100. Is, no, the one on the lower right. Okay, so the main entrance is I see a railing and some steps. That's the main entrance?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's more like a decorative step. The property is relatively flat, so I'm trying to elevate the building about a foot to get a
No
little
problem.
elevated
Understood.
floor area.
So page SK 100, that's
Yeah.
the ground floor with the parking underneath.
Exactly.
Okay.
So there's about a foot difference we created.
And your elevators
So the
in the
building
back.
is not flush with the sidewalk. The lobby level.
Yeah, my guesstimation, most of your residents are gonna come through the parking garage and not even go outside the building.
Correct.
So that front door is never gonna get used.
Unless they
The
have
one that-
guests.
The one that's near parking space 28 is gonna get used.
They're gonna walk across.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a resident, probably most of the time you're not gonna be walking. You park unless you wanna, go shopping, so then,
Okay.
yes.
The reason they would use the lobby entrances to utilize the restaurants in town, to utilize the train. Most of the people that are gonna be moving in are gonna be using the train station, and also the shopping, Goodwire's right there.
Also, it makes it a better approach to the building opposed to going through the entire parking garage. So giving direct access to the sidewalk, it's much better, whether you actually, whether your tenant gonna walk into the building or not.
Okay, so this is gonna be subject to special permit, right?
Right, it's a site plan, special permit, and flood damage application, that's correct.
So we're gonna do a traffic study if we want one.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons they're here, is to find out what information you want in traffic, park, whatever information you want on traffic, curb cuts, sight lines,
Great.
whatever information you want is an opportunity to relay to them what issues might come up. And certainly, between now and later this week or early next week, you might end up driving past the property and say, oh, yeah, certainly this
Okay.
issue hit me once I see the site.
So you're adding, right now, there's one curb cut on Sedgwick, so you're adding a second curb cut on Sedgwick. Hold on.
Oh.
Okay, you're adding a second one. The one that's to the, I would say to the east is an entry exit, and the one to the west, closer to Goodwire's, is just an exit only. Correct? I'm looking at
Emergency
SK
exit.
100.
Based on our proposed site plan, but currently there are 2 curb cut on Sedgwick.
Right, going both into the same parking lot.
Correct.
Great.
So we are maintaining 2 curb cuts on Sedgwick, but we add in a new one on Old Kings Highway.
And one of them will be dual directions?
Yes.
One will be dual,
Which-
the
can
other
you
one will
point
be
out which
exit
one?
only. So this will be
First, okay.
dual, entry and exit, and this one will be exit only. So should the commissioner wants this to be only, should you not want a curb cut here, we can easily remove this one.
If I can just, I don't know if anybody else uses the branch, used to be the branch other than myself, but on this drawing, the curb cut to the right is in and out,
Right.
2 ways. And the curb cut slightly to the left was for the ATM, not the ATM, the
Right.
drive-up. So there's
Yeah.
2 curb cuts now, one double and one single.
Right, they're pretty close to each other.
I don't know whether
Yeah, no,
This
that's
in
fair.
the same locations,
Yeah.
but
One is here,
Okay.
and then the other one is right here.
Then where's the exit on Old Kings Highway again?
So this one, we're thinking of using this as a loading and emergency exit only. So most of our traffic will come in this way, exit this way, or exit this direction. But we still can have
How will that be
vehicular
controlled?
exit on Old Kings
Would that just be
Highway.
controlled by like a honor system, or would there be, like, would they have to call a super or someone to like use the, like, how would that be controlled?
This area.
Otherwise, people would just use that if they chose to.
No, this area is going to be preliminary for FedEx, UPS deliveries. You want to get that truck off the road, not blocking Old Kings Highway.
You're gonna have to get it off the road.
So
You're
so
gonna
that's the
want
Yeah.
reason, that's the reason why we
Right.
came up with the people are also going to move in and out of these units.
Yeah, no.
They're going to need a loading.
But will there be a super on site? Like, how do you control that?
Well, this is going to be gated. We'll have it
Okay.
gated.
Yeah.
That's what I was, yeah.
I mean, all entrances can have gated and you have a key fob to
fob,
exit
yeah.
in
Yeah,
and
but if you're
out, and these
a
things can
resident
be.
exiting and entering, like,
They won't have access to
okay,
this.
that was my
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. What's the height of the first story,
You mean
second story, and third story?
It's total 28 feet.
total 28,
28 feet over 3 floors?
over 3 floors, that's
And-
correct.
And is it split evenly?
No,
Like
not
the
quite.
first floor as well?
I can walk you through that if you want.
Yes.
No, we're gonna have 9:15.
So,
Dave's got more concerns.
No. So the first floor ceiling is 8 foot, and each apartment will have about 8'6".
So your ceilings, your internal ceilings in the apartments are
8'6"
8'6", not 9 foot, okay.
So once we find out, let's say, should the commission approve this thing, and when we finalize our structural plan, we would have the opportunity to reduce the headroom in the parking garage. 8 foot, we might be able to reduce it by another 6 inches.
Yeah, I wouldn't go down that road. You'd be surprised on how many SUVs got Thule boxes on the roof. You can try. They tried it. They tried it at Bombers.
The minimum for any parking garage recommended is 7 feet. So we
Yeah,
have 8.
go to Target in downtown White Plains and see how high that ceiling is. My wife got stuck in there.
Yeah. So we'll stick with the 8 foot of.
I'm not laughing.
And then the other way we can also gain a couple inches, that right now we assume our floor depth is about 12 inches. So if we go with a concrete decking, so we'll be able to gain a few inches. But we feel comfortable that 8 foot headroom in a parking garage will be just fine.
Because the maximum height
It's
in
28.
the zone is 28 feet, so you're going right up
But they
against the
can get
maximum.
extra
The-
height based on the inclusionary, again, if the commission could grant a few extra feet in terms of height. The same way you could grant an extra third story, you could
Okay.
grant extra height up to, I think,
So
35.
if you guys would like to be nice to us, give us 2 feet, we'll be extremely excited.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Wouldn't bank on it.
bank on it.
All right, well,
We're here talking informally, and we want, and you want to know
exactly.
and we
Right.
want to know what you're thinking. I hesitate to do this, but I'm going to get into some thin ice here. The commission is not allowed to make decisions, correct me if I'm wrong, on financial viability. But there have been cases in town where the project proved to be not viable. And I won't say we ended up holding the bag on it, but it's had an impact on our deliberations and on other applications and so on and so on and so
That
on.
was an affordable housing.
Yeah,
That was an 830G application.
well, but there's gonna be two.
And
that's
that's a good point,
required.
Jim, because when I met with Chip and his compadre as well, who wasn't Mark, was someone else at the time, and we talked right up front. Issue one is, guys, and we talked about other projects and making sure that they're aware of the affordable requirements and they make the numbers work based on land values and things. So we had I think at each meeting we talked about that factor because it is very important that
Absolutely.
this succeed, both for the commission and for yourself.
Correct. We didn't want to come in with an 830G, because it's going to take years. You know, what's the sense? Where are we going? You know, we're either going to try to put this deal together, or it's not going to go anywhere.
Is it under contract?
It's under contract, and I don't have a lot of time under contract. I'm dealing with very elderly people, 2 partners that are in their 80s, that are very, very difficult to deal with.
Your broker's a great broker. At Cushman?
I don't understand.
But so we're having difficulties, you know, I've met with Jeremy for 4 months, going back and forth with questions to make sure we're not coming to you asking for a variance. Because if I'm gonna ask for a variance, it's not gonna get approved. I don't wanna waste your time, my money, and I've got a lot of money invested now. And I
Hold on
can,
one second. The problem is you're not asking for a variance, because that's a different board. But as part of the inclusionary housing, the commission has latitude to do a lot of things. So it's not a variance, but it technically is a variance, right?
so,
The six of us now could not, I would venture to say we cannot give you a definitive answer without the other information, such as a potential parking study or traffic study, that you're gonna get those things that are granted by the commission at the commission's discretion approved.
Also, I wanted to ask you, Mr. Platts, what do you think the project would be marketed to, any specific demographics? Or is it just tenancy? Because
Yeah.
as we mentioned, the property that has come back that Mr. Rand was mentioning was for senior housing only, and then they recently, in the past couple of months, came back and had asked for that to be rescinded, and they wanted to open it. So, as you can see, when things become financially unviable, the commission gets put into a
I don't know
position.
why he even came in front of you folks to a small percentage of the market is 62 and over to rent, or sell. I mean, that market's not there, and let's all be realistic, the housing, I'm a builder also, I build in Greenwich, I built in Westport. You guys, this is a great town, Jeremy, it's fantastic. I mean, you guys are lucky to have a gentleman in that office that really bends over backwards to try to work and shows you the way and what needs to get done and accomplished. But right now with the market, I wouldn't even the valuable market is the rental market. I mean, you're gonna bring, people right now are not buying things that are gonna be here 3 years, 4 years, and they're on their way.
This is just a
millennials,
preliminary application, so we
Yeah.
don't need to get into the weeds.
So that's,
But you have some, you have a
I would like
realtor
some
right here.
feedback, what we need, what you think we need to get done, and I could try to get this done by the 13th.
Yeah.
I'm short on time,
You're gonna need a traffic study, in my opinion.
Yeah, have you started a traffic study?
No, but I will.
No, they're expensive.
Yeah, that circle that is the corner of Sedgwick and Kings Highway, I drive practically every day, and it is sometimes unclear, and people roll through those stop signs and don't blink if they're going up Sedgwick from sort of the Trader Joe's zone. So yeah, a traffic study would definitely be needed.
Right, so that's 3 votes right there, so that's, question, Jeremy, at 77 Leroy, how many parking spaces are there?
That was 16 units,
So 32
11 market
spaces?
rate, 5 affordable, 24. It was a space, 1.5 spaces per unit.
Okay, because that, just as an example, that project was subject to a traffic study with 16 units and 24 spaces. They had a tough time getting those 24 spaces in there. You're going for 40 spaces.
But our parking spaces, we have the parking count.
I understand,
Yeah.
I understand, but I'm talking traffic.
Okay.
Oh, you mean because there's 40 cars?
You have more cars, you're creating more traffic.
So are you saying we might be better off reducing the parking count?
If you reduce the parking count, you're also better off reducing the unit count.
Oh, okay.
And it's not viable.
Yeah.
Everything's viable at a price.
We do have, another concern I just wanted to bring up is we do have quite a lot of new residential apartments being developed between Norotan Heights and Corbin.
That gives the
So-
viability, though. That's market, that's not us.
Right.
I guess pardon me
Well,
for,
it does sort of, in the plan, I mean, it's taxing onto the school zones, the school district.
What is this, what would this be?
Sorry, Jim.
I guess what my concern is, yeah, I mean, we assume you know what you're doing. I don't mean it the way it sounds, okay? And you're aware of what's going on in the rest of town and so on and so forth. And I don't think we're in a position to question your judgment or even insist that we review it in advance. I just want to be sure that you understand that if you got your figures wrong and you need to change something to make it viable, that's not our job.
No, the
Our
numbers.
job is not to assure you of a profitable investment.
Yeah, our numbers are correct.
Okay.
What we've been through down the road on this, and, you know, getting to the school system and bringing kids in, this isn't gonna be where kids are gonna be living with their families and things like that. You go to, time out, you go to Stanford, you go to North Solno. I've lived in these apartment buildings, there's maybe out of, 100 units, you have 3 kids, so you're not bringing that into the.
I would, to be honest with you, I wouldn't go down that road.
Yeah, because we had the
Because
kids
we've had
development and
Kent
we've got a ton of kids.
What's the acreage of, what's the acreage of 77 Leroy?
It's about half an acre.
It's a half an acre?
And what was this?
Okay.
What's the number of units?
So this density,
No,
your
we're not.
density you're asking for is 40 units per acre. I know Avalon is 9 per acre. And you take, but they change, they redistrict all the time. And 77 Leroy
Yes.
is 32 per acre. So
And what is this? They're 32 per acre. What is this per acre?
40.
For
40?
40. Okay,
And is this considered a 3-story or a 2-story?
2-story, it's the same exact as
So
77 Leroy.
because the first floor is, because of is not
It's
considered.
flood and parking.
Got it. So it's considered a 2-story, not a 3-story, and that's why there's no like
With parking underneath, it's up on stilts.
greeny kind of thing. or-
There's-
Right.
Yeah,
Okay, got it.
There's no office, the rental
That
office
was
we
just
put in
on there.
in the first floor level of the apartment.
Thank you.
Okay.
And the roof garden, if I can.
What is a roof garden?
That's amenity for
Yes.
residents?
Correct.
Is that considered
Any more color from this?
public plaza?
Nope.
No,
It's
that's
two-story,
for
not
resident
three.
only.
So the public plaza, because the first floor is parking.
Yeah, that was-
we need
yeah.
the public plaza to give them the third. Okay, and do we count, how do we count that?
Where?
I love roof gardens.
Well,
but
that's
how do
what,
we count
I
that?
gotta check with the zoning officer about that, in terms of, there's
I'm 5'6".
really nothing like it in
Two.
Darien, the roof garden.
That you know of at this point.
Who's the tallest?
There's a
one
roof
in there?
garden down in the bay, I can tell you that.
It's like, how do you count that wise?
pretty cool.
The humans, like, being up there.
Is it usable
Yeah, so
space?
we'll check and I'll get back to Chip on that.
I've never seen, it's never been counted any of the deals I've ever worked on. I mean, I've got.
I mean-
Hey, hold on one second. George, any questions?
We're kind of off the beaten path of where you all are going, and I'm happy to learn from you all, but I don't recall hearing, or where did any dumpster go?
There's an enclosure.
On the Old Kings South area?
It's this box right here, next to the drop-off area.
Oh, recycling area, okay.
Look at SK 100.
Yep, got it. Yeah, I got it, okay. Just as my own little comment, and I know we're not ARB, but I wish what I see as the rear of this building wasn't on Old Kings Highway South. But I guess you have limited options.
Along that line, that, your loading drop-off area, how deep is that?
You mean,
On SK, go to SK 100. Because if you're backing in,
32 wide.
width-wise?
no,
No,
if you're,
from the road to the,
you're backing in a
Yes,
moving
that way.
van.
Steve.
If you're backing in a moving truck,
Yeah, it's still not much, right? But it's just that, but we don't know.
see where I'm going? If you're backing in a moving truck, and a moving truck's 32 feet, and your depth's 25 feet, you get 7 feet hanging out in the street. Well, this is the line of the building.
So
You can't put,
the width of that driving area is about 32 feet.
I don't care about the width, I care about the depth. What are you calling it?
From the edge of the curb, it's about 24 feet to the edge of pavement to the face of the building.
And then that opens up how many feet? So
32.
if you go, so you're going into the triangle. The biggest point is if you have a 32-foot truck
Yeah,
and you're backing it in to do a moving,
You get
yeah, because
CNS card back it in.
do you have the extra 8 feet
well, exactly.
under the building when you open up the gate?
Yeah, if you open the door, the gate is 18 feet wide.
No, not wide,
It's
but
approved for fire truck.
we're talking
Oh,
about.
a fire
going
truck
in.
will not go under that
No,
building.
he didn't say fire truck.
No, moving truck.
A moving truck.
So you got 24 feet on the, from the curb to the building.
Correct.
The gate opens, and do we have another 8 feet to put the
Oh,
rest of the truck in?
Oh, you got plenty.
How many feet is it from?
That's, the whole thing is the width of the driveway.
Didn't I hear
Part of
that
the door's gonna be a problem 'cause
the building
it's
was
8
9 feet high
Correct.
on the ground floor?
Yeah, you're right.
We have 8-foot ceiling.
A truck,
So you can't, if you have a 30-foot truck, you can't back it into the building inside the gate.
You could be out in the street.
It's gonna be hanging over the street.
Yep.
B&S Carting is gonna come pick up the garbage, that's where the garbage comes out in the
Mhm.
morning or at night.
Yeah, it's not gonna be in a dumpster though. I live in Stamford in a high rise and we use containers and they wheel them out. They don't use the dumpsters anymore, you know, so that if there's 20
Yeah.
containers, they use 1 unit or 2 per unit.
Yeah.
Right, but the
So-
carting company's gonna come in the morning and pick them up.
Yeah, but you have to get them out the night before now.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
you're not,
do we have
you're not
the
bringing a
garbage cans
dumpster
sitting
under the
outside?
building.
You're not gonna put a dumpster.
Yeah, there's no
But
dumpster.
how many
One
garbage
at a time,
containers?
please.
Well, we'll
Please
get-
just
yeah.
speak one at a time.
Yeah, we're
Thank
getting-
you.
We're getting too deep in the weeds.
Yep.
That's, we don't have to debate this tonight, about how many dumpsters and how many garbage trucks and how many trips you have. What we're trying to tell you that is if B&S or CNS Carting comes in the morning or night, and you want them off of Old Kings Highway, they have to be able to fit in the driveway.
Right. So are
That,
you,
if I don't know the depth, the length of a moving truck or the length of a carting truck, but if it's 30 feet and you only have 24 feet, you get 6 feet hanging out the street.
I mean, we can enlarge this curb cut, so instead of them backing up into this entrance, so they can
Pull in like this,
yeah,
You can do whatever you want.
Sure.
I'm telling you what the issues are.
okay,
like a circular.
yeah,
You can do whatever you want, I'm telling you what the issues are.
okay.
Because if you're telling me that you're gonna back in there and the
No,
truck's gonna hang
you're
out
not,
5
you're
feet in
not
the
backing
street,
under the
you're
parking
not getting
garage.
approved.
No, you're not backing into the parking garage.
Commerce had their whole project redone because they didn't have loading spaces.
I have one final question. Fire trucks. They can get in on Sedgwick, they can get in Old Kings Highway, they can get in the parking in the back.
A fire truck would not go under the building.
No, I'm not asking that.
Okay.
But there's a fourth side to the building between the site and 800 Post Road.
Yes, the train parking.
It backs up, that's the mechanic street lot.
No,
There's a
It backs
mechanic
up
street
to
lot,
800 Post Road. is-
Right.
Correct, that's a large parking lot.
and then there's a lot.
can you, I just urge you to talk to the fire commissioner, whoever he is, and say, I'm happy, I can get to the building from all 4 sides, wherever I have to go. That's all.
Thanks.
The last issue.
I'm gonna close this.
This,
Yep,
this
is
area here.
drainage. There's, because it's a tear down, and I spoke to Chip about the need to figure out a way to deal with on-site drainage. They're gonna have to look at Cultex or something to make that work. And I know that's always been a big issue with the commission, so they'll have to get an engineer on board.
Yeah, I think we give them plenty of feedback, they can worry about. the
Yeah, you're right, so it needs traffic and it also needs engineering for drainage, yeah,
Okay.
and fire.
Any more questions over here? Any more questions over here?
No, good.
Is there anything else to add? I think we gave you a lot to think about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we're gonna go to the amendment of business site plan number 198A, the Thorndal Office Park, Darien Library, Thorndal Circle. This is some amendments to the plans to include new sidewalks and pathways.
Chairman, just a quick overview, please.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, at this point, I should announce that I'm going to recuse myself from it. And it's not because of the Ruchi Law Firm.
That's great. You can sit in the room.
Okay.
It says sit in the back is
Okay.
is usually the easiest. If it's really contentious, you're supposed to be outside the room, but we're fine.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And if we need a quorum, you have to sit in your chair, but we don't need a quorum.
Alan Gray is here on behalf of the Darien Library. Alan and I have been speaking over the past month or two about parking for the library. As you've all been to the library, you're familiar with what goes on there, the routine events, the special events. They do on a day-to-day basis. Jerry Nielsen, the adjacent owner of Thorndal Office Park, has generously offered the library for years the opportunity to park there for staff and for overflow large events. And that has worked out very well. And Alan submitted to you a copy of the lease they have, if you will, the agreement with Jerry, which is, can be terminated with notice.
It's not a lease, it's a license.
It's a license agreement.
It's better.
Right, and what Alan is saying is, you know what, it would be easier for us to kind of get a little more certainty on some of the lesser used spaces instead of, as you may know, Fitch Academy was recently allowed and moved in, and they're in one of the closer spaces to the library. So staff, which originally parked back behind that building next to the library, are now a little further back, and this is an opportunity to really have library staff and overflow parking be in a set area, I'll call it, in the back buildings of Thorndal Office Park, and when they park there, to have a safe, accessible way to get to Hecker Avenue and then walk up the existing sidewalks at Hecker. So the proposal before you is for new sidewalks, if you will, which go from the parking lot to Hecker Avenue and associated bollard lighting to match the existing bollard lighting that's there. This is a minor amendment of the special permit for the office park. There's
That's this minor amendment to the special permit, not for the office park, for the library.
Well, it would be the
So that
approval
be-
for the office park, it's to all the works on the office park property.
Understood, right? But the applicant is,
The applicant, I'll call them jointly, but really anyone can use these sidewalks.
for their own private property.
They are on private property.
Okay,
Jerry's given the library the right to represent him.
correct.
So-
Yes.
Yes. I think for the commission's ease, this diagram is probably the best one to look at. Which is, Alan, you ready?
Do I have that diagram?
It's part of the application. The next page after that. Karen, the next page after, it's a little bit easier.
I also,
It's attached to the lease. Go to this. 1 second, Alan. Go to this.
I don't know if that one's working or not.
It's in front of us.
Okay.
There we go.
Page is-
All right.
yeah,
So they're
yeah,
gonna
this
walk
one, yeah.
from the
Just put
library,
this-
all along Hecker,
Correct.
all
Correct.
in front of the station.
Correct.
This gets a little dark,
Correct. Correct.
and we're gonna light this up all the way.
No, the lighting version's here.
See, this is kind of scary at night. I'd walk in front of the police, but I don't wanna walk in front of that office building.
Yeah.
I'm a New Yorker.
Okay. Alan, please introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Alan Gray, Gray. I'm the director of Darien Library, and I have with me Fred Maschia from Ty and Bond, who's worked on the study with us. And as Jeremy said, we've had for 10 years since we opened the library an agreement with Jerry Nielsen that our staff could park on their space, and that on evenings and weekends that overflow parking would be available to our patrons. And that's worked very well. What we would like to do, because as we see the trend of our use in the library, a few times a week during the 6 or 7 really busy months of the year, we do have some times during the weekday that we also have an overlap of a program or something goes on too long, and we disappoint a few people each time. And what we would like to do is be able to have overflow parking for those events as well during the weekday. And we asked Ty, and first of all, we have Jerry Nielsen's complete agreement, and he said it was all right to present the proposal on their behalf. We looked at spaces that would be available, and the space in effect on either, as you can see from the map, on either side of the police department would be perfect. They are essentially not used. I have been driving back there and parking almost every day, and we would like then to put in sidewalks and bollards for lighting that would allow people, our staff, and then anyone who came to a program and had to park there for overflow to walk to Hecker and then walk to the library. That would be, I think, the farthest you would have to walk, as I understand it, is Google Maps says is like 880 feet. I don't know. In the city would think, oh great, we're within 2 blocks of where we want to go. There are people who don't think that parking in the back of our parking lot is something that they ought to have to do. But I think what we'll find for overflow parking is that this would work very well for the occasions that we would like to do it. And that's what we're
my
hoping
daughter
for.
will never park in that parking lot right there. She's there all the time.
Yes.
But I think for the overflow, sorry, go on.
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
gonna say, how do you actually get here? Because you can't get there from Hecker, correct?
Yeah, you
So you have to go to Post to Thorndal and wind past the first office building.
I actually walk across the grass from behind there to Hecker Avenue and walk that way past the police
But
station.
to drive, you have to go
Oh, yes,
all the way to
absolutely, yes.
Thorndal and wrap around. So it'd
There's
be
no
kind of hard to
interest,
direct.
I'm sorry?
Wouldn't it be kind of hard to direct, say someone's
There's
coming
a
for a
Saturday.
speaker or a movie, to direct them all the way back around
We
there?
put directions to the overflow parking in Thorndal Circle for evenings and weekends on our website. And so they can do that. And whenever we have a major program that we know there's going to be some constraints, we hire police officers and give them copies of the map. So that they know, so they can hand it out to people. And, you know, the second time that you get in that circumstance, then you understand how it would work.
And there's no way, I mean, this is silly because you would have thought of it already, but to give cars access from Hecker?
Well, when Thorndal's office park was first being developed, that was one of the major issues.
Not having curb cuts.
Was curb cuts on Hecker. And
Yeah.
they decided at the time, no, I think a lot of people would use it kind of as cut through, either to get from the post road around or vice versa. And so I thought, you know, when I spoke to Alan, he said it's going to be pedestrian only. It just be,
Oh, yes, no, I'm all for
Yeah.
walkways and
Right.
good lighting, sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
I just wondered if it could be made easier to be accessed by cars who, you know, pull into the library, circle around, and then go,
That
you know, it's
might
gonna be
work.
quite a loop.
That might work well for the library.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I don't think that Jerry Nielsen would like it. It would affect the flow in his own building, and we don't want to do anything
I agree.
other than kind of fit into what his interests are.
Okay, let's get into the proposal, because
Sure.
right now, all you're doing is 3 sidewalks. 2 off of Hecker, and one internally, that's already, kind of sort of exists.
The one internally is, the one we're talking about right here is.
If you could pull up this plan, it's probably the easiest one.
All right, yeah, so.
see what the one, Fred?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one would be the internal one that would walk, our staff parks right there now. So that would actually, parking here and this one right behind the police station would work. We have thought about that. We are not absolutely committed to that. We like the idea of having people just sort of walk on Hecker. This would really be something that would be of some use to the people in the Thorndal Circle if they wanted to walk up to Michael Joseph's and get lunch. But these are the 2 sidewalks here that would go out to Hecker that are the 2 that are of significant importance to us.
The internal ones is nowhere close to your building, or not really close to your building.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're asking us to put it, well, this is the first question. How many, according to your statement, you already have a parking group, how many parking group spaces do you have with them today?
Do we have now?
Correct.
We have 181.
No, with Thorndale Circle.
Uh,
Because you're asking for 70 more.
60 more.
60 more.
Is the question, how many are we using in Thorndal Circle now for our staff?
You said you had a 10-year agreement with Thorndal Circle
Yeah.
for overflow parking.
We do not have a formal agreement with them as to the amounts because on average, 14 cars from our staff are parked back there, but that varies. The overflow takes place outside of their business hours, so we've not had an agreement on that amount.
Okay.
But this would be a total of 60 spaces.
Correct. Okay.
So if you thought, go ahead.
So now, everyone knows what they want to do is basically put in 2 sidewalks from Hecker Avenue to those parking lots. Right now, there's, I think on the one all the way to the west, I think it's a chain link fence that's going to get opened up.
I don't believe there is a fence on either one of them. Yeah.
Okay. Because you're going to cut through, there's wooded areas there that you're going to walk through.
Where the generators are at the back of.
Where the generators are, I think,
Yeah. Here are pictures of the 2, I only have one of them. This is the one that goes behind the police station. So this is the fence from the police station, and so it would go just this side and then come to Hecker.
Okay.
And then the other one is back behind, farther away, and it just, there's some boulders that come out to the street, but there is no fence there either.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the issue is, you can't put the office park into zoning violation by taking their parking. Fred and I discussed this. Have you looked at that at all? Do you know what the requirement is? We just talked to the last gentleman who was doing 2 per unit. Because
Right,
Nielsen says publicly they have 3.5 per thousand parking spaces. So if you just gave away 70 plus 14, that means you're giving away 85 spaces.
Alan, these are not.
I'm sorry, 60 plus
exclusive use of
14.
the library.
No, they are
Correct.
both
It's a
for
library.
Thorndal Circle and for the library. That's our agreement, and that, I think I put the possible sign in. There are
Regrading.
people, there are 3 people who park in this spot right here every day, because I park right there every day, and we're not gonna suggest to them that they park anywhere else. That's just what's convenient for them. And remember, this is overflow parking for us. 60 spaces, if you think on average 15 staff members, so then the 45 spaces that are additional is really a major significant number that we're not gonna get close to, I don't think, except in an extraordinary circumstance.
So why'd you ask for so many?
Just because that's the total of the 2 spaces, and.
The 2 areas?
Hmm?
Of the 2 areas?
Of the 2 areas, yes, of this one right here, and then right here. And so there is actually a possibility, based upon the zoning, to actually add some more spaces there. But we just like the ideal, if this is 25 and 15 staff are there, then there might be 10. But then there would be a time when more people would go there. What we were going to probably do is have staff members go to the far back one when we know it's a big event, and then free it up for the others. But we try not to disappoint anyone anytime, so we'd rather have a surplus available to us for these kinds of things.
But understood, you just can't put the office park into violation. That's the problem.
I'm sorry. I
You
missed-
can't put the office park into violation if they're under.
No.
Hold on one second.
This-
Fred, did you get the answer to that question?
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So based on some additional research that was done, it appears that there's approximately 152,000 square feet of floor area within the existing offices on the site. The parking regs require 2.5 parking spaces per,
That would be 4 per thousand.
4 per thousand, correct. So that's a requirement of approximately 608 parking spaces.
How many do they have?
There are 457 existing parking spaces.
Can I just add something? That's the number
Hold on
we
one second.
talked
Hold on one second.
Yeah,
How many? 457 or something like that?
457. The commission originally approved in at least part of the case that they approved less than what was required, as long as the applicant could demonstrate that additional parking could be provided on the site to meet that need, should it exist.
And they don't have the need, and these are spaces that Nielsen's feel comfortable, and they can terminate the license at any point.
Yes.
So that the approved office park is underparked, and they can add more spaces if they need to at some point.
Correct.
Correct.
And the agreement can be canceled.
Terminated anytime.
Because right now, the building that this is near a data center that's empty. And a data center requirement only has, a data center typically has 6 people work there.
Right,
And the building's 52,000
that's
feet,
why it's under, yeah.
right?
They
So
can
it's
terminate
not-
anytime, so it's not like.
Right, as Alan and I discussed, and Alan, we agree that the moment, as Jerry fills his buildings, the moment Jerry has a paying customer, he unfortunately will say to the library, sorry, I have paying customers that need this space. But as Alan said, in my experience as well, especially in these far back buildings,
That's what noise.
Okay.
they're.
Let's change topics again. Relative to the 1 foot grading,
Right, we talked.
that's not significant to me.
Right,
It's 1 foot
there's-
times how many feet?
When Fred did the details of the engineering, we talked about the regrading on that border with the post office, which normally in that area.
Post office.
Or
Police
police station, thank you, would require a permit, but it's just in 1 or 2 little spots, the size of the sheet paper, where the grade change is that significant.
For the record, my name is Fred Masha, engineer with Time Bond.
Great, thank you.
Well, we laid this out, and I actually walked the project 2 or 3 times before I actually laid out a sidewalk for Alan to look at. I picked a location over here on Hecker for this one. It's a couple boulders over there right now, and actually I laid it out so I think only 1 tree needs a limb trimmed, and the rest of it pretty much follows the grade. Over in this corner here, we're right up against the chain link fence where the police station is. And there's a guide wire for a utility pole that comes down. Between the guide wire and the fence, we have 5 feet, 2 inches, enough to squeeze a sidewalk in. Probably the first 10 or 15 feet, there may be a grade change of 6 to 8 inches. And then the rest of the sidewalk, reason why it hugs the fence to go all the way around, there's some ledge outcrops. So when we put the bollards in, we needed to dig a utility trench, very shallow, but we tried to keep it away from the ledge. That's why it curves around. Also avoid any existing trees. They're all mature trees out there. The park's 40-plus years old. And this was just another tie-in here for the other ones.
Which of the 3 has the 1 foot elevation change?
Right there.
The first 15, 20 feet of this one there.
Okay. Okay. Any questions?
Oh, good. That's good.
Understood. Anything else to add? I think we're okay with this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we vote on this too?
May as well vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
These guys, the applicants put a proposal in to add these 3 sidewalks within the Nielsen property and put in lighting.
A motion to
All those
approve.
Can we get a motion?
Second.
There you go. All's in favor?
5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Moving on, amendment of business site plan number 65-D, special permit for Inner Light 1101 Boston Post Road in the CBD zone. This is a request to modify previous approval to allow yoga classes.
Right, you have in your packet a letter dated August 8th from Nancy Joyce explaining the yoga classes, when there will be, how many people, days of the week. We also included for background the original P&Z decision for Inner Light, which is from April 2017, 2 years ago. It's a very quiet time in downtown in the early mornings, and we treated this as an amendment to the original special permit because it seems very minor, and it's not changing the bulk of the parking or impacts. It's in the middle of downtown. Yoga is not known as a noisy activity. It's all indoors, right? So we brought it to you as an amendment of the existing special permit for Inner Light because they were never approved for yoga or anything like that. So this would amend that.
Please,
Hi.
introduce yourself.
I'm Nancy Joyce. I'm the new owner of Inner Light. My sister was using currently as it is right now, you walk in and there in the back area, there's 3 private sauna rooms. And then she had a front little studio space that she was doing like life coaching, motherhood coaching in. I bought it. I'm not a mother. I don't plan on doing motherhood coaching. So my idea was that with it, I've been teaching yoga for 10 years. For a while, I was out here. I was teaching in the Fairfield County and Westchester County areas, and then I live in Manhattan right now. I've been teaching for 3 years in Manhattan. I had the idea to just pull the couches out of that little space and throw down 8 yoga mats, 4 classes a week, Tuesday and Thursday mornings, 8 a.m., Monday, Wednesday mornings, 9:30 a.m. I've talked to Gina Zangrillo about it. We have, her support and approval, and we share that parking area with them. We have a shared agreement that's kind of long withstanding. So.
Okay. Are the saunas in operation that early in the morning too, typically?
The saunas won't be in operation on the Tuesday and Thursdays, but they will be in operation on the Monday and Wednesday classes because the store opens at 9.
In the history that you know of, are they typically rented at 9 o'clock in the morning? No. I don't think so.
No, yeah, it's pretty quiet, especially right now.
Yeah.
So I think it might be there's not a lot of yoga in Darien. There's Kaya yoga, which is primarily hot yoga. So if that's something that doesn't interest you, you're kind of out of luck unless you go to join Equinox. So I think it's a nice opportunity. It's a very small space to bring some more yoga to the town.
So it's just in addition of an existing special permit use in a building to add another use.
It would already have multiple.
It's a multi-use building. There's a bank
It's a
branch
multi-use
there.
space
It used to
already,
be a wish
yeah.
list,
Right.
10
So-
years ago. Any questions on this end?
No
Jim?
questions.
No. George? Nope. Okay. I think we're ready to vote. Entertain a motion on this product?
Motion to approve.
Those two approved. Do we second?
Second?
All those in favor?
6-0.
Yep.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, flood damage prevention application number 189C, landfilling and regrading application number 372-B. Mike Nicholas, 4 Silver Lakes Drive. This is a request for extension of time to commence project.
This is the house that will, like until.
Oh, wait, I skipped. Should I go back?
No, you did, what is your, you did a great job.
Wait,
No,
you should
I
do-
did, I skipped.
You do 145
Sorry.
Nearwater
Oh,
Lane.
sorry.
Back up. Coastal site plan review number 300, flood damage prevention application number 341, landfilling and regrading application number 329, Mark Lokhin, 145 Northwest
Nearwater Lane.
Nearwater Lane, LLC.
LLC, WL.
It's at 145 Nearwater Lane. Request for extension of time to commence project. Sorry, failing on my first secretary evening.
You're getting fine. Just as a background, I'll speak for Jeremy. This is the site that is near the entrance of the bay around where Weed Beach is. It's way in the back. You can only see it from Brush Island. There was a man-made pond there. They filled it in. We approved that. There was a silo there. They had to settle the land. It sat there for a long time. This guy wants to build a house. They're saying he's not ready. There was a silo. It was a silo. When you fill in something, you have to put a silo when the land settles. Jeremy, anything else?
Nope, I think that summarized it basically.
How much time do they want?
I think they're looking to start in spring of next year.
We gave him 2 years already.
Yeah. Spring of 20?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, because usually about this time of year, people have to make a decision, are they gonna try to pour a foundation in, I dare say, bad weather, or just wait till
Got it.
weather breaks in March, April. So I think,
Just because it's so wet right now?
yeah, or I think at this time, I mean, now would be fine, but I think as you go 3 months from now, you don't see a lot of people breaking ground.
So their time is expiring now?
I think their time is expiring soon, so Mark just thought, let's put in this placeholder and with a request for another year. If the commission is not comfortable, you can go 6 months or 8 months or something like that.
I'd recommend we give him another year.
Yeah, we should
The
give them
house,
another year.
just ironically, the house right in front of it is owned by the Stefanoni family, and that was
Yeah.
just torn down.
That's right.
Do they have
Great.
any complaints from neighbors or anything?
Well, I think the original complaint from neighbors was the
Brush
fact that
areas.
when they took it down, there were piles of dirt and things, and it was like, I don't want to
Unsightly.
look.
It's all settled, right?
But things are much better now.
It's
Like
more,
fences were already taken down that were,
Yeah.
yeah.
it's more visible from the Brush Island side than it is from the other one.
Correct.
Okay, I would recommend.
You're
a
saying
year.
another neighbor took a house down right next to it?
Yes.
Stefanoni's house is in front of it.
This is
Torn down.
145, and 149 was
Stephanie's
taken down as well.
This one.
Because they're rebuilding or what?
It was a blight house.
Oh, got it. Okay, yeah, no, I'm fine with a year.
Me too.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve a year extension.
I'll approve a year, motion to approve
Second.
1 year extension?
Second, all those in favor? All right.
Yes,
Okay.
in favor.
Next,
Okay, now moving on to flood damage prevention application 189-C, landfilling and regrading application 372-B, Mike Nicholas, 4 Silver Lakes Drive, request also for extension of time to commence project.
this is the house that's across the street from Tokenique School. There was one house there years ago, they knocked it down. There's a pond in the backyard. The guy's been in here multiple times. They built the first house, he lives in the first house. This is
Oh,
the
the
second
sidewalk.
house.
This is the sidewalk.
Yep.
issue.
Sidewalk.
My favorite
Give the guy
sidewalk.
whatever he wants.
Wait, across
I've
the-
never approved
I'll
it.
show you, hold on.
If you see the site plan, you'd know why, but it's up to you guys if you want to give it.
You never approved it,
We're on-
Mr. Mulvaney? Yeah, so
It's
Yes,
the
it's-
when
sec-
you
it
come
would be the
down
second
the
house on the
road,
right.
there's a.
It would be
there's a
between
house
the
right there
existing
with a
house,
great
number
yellow
2,
door.
and the
Oh,
pond.
yeah.
He also owns,
Oh, right,
I
right,
know the
the
yellow
second
door.
lot. He wants to build a second house.
right.
Oh,
It's,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
you're
this on
funny.
the corner.
sorry.
it's a, I'm not really in favor, it's a tough lot to build on, but if you guys want to give them an extension.
Jeremy, do you have any color on?
I'm fine with that extension.
I would say you could do the same thing, give him one last extension, or give him 6 months, such he pulls a foundation permit or has the foundation in by May or something like that.
I'm
But
fine
it's
with
up to
12
the
months.
commission,
If
certainly.
he wants 12, I'm fine with 12.
I'd recommend 6, but it's up to you.
This is
guys.
not the first extension.
No.
This is his probably third extension, right?
Right, he had, the original subdivision was approved in 2016, filed the map and the land records to finalize the subdivision in early 2017, built the first house 2017,
Which is his
finished it in
house.
2018.
But he's still dealing with the sidewalk. I mean, it's not like,
That was a CO. Didn't we withhold the CO until he built the
He has a
sidewalk? and then
TCO.
he's a
The
TCO now.
state.
But the state's, you know,
Give him
having
a-
trouble with that. It's like, he's not, I don't know.
It's up to you guys.
I'm in favor of it.
I'm fine with 12.
How much time want to give?
A year.
A year?
A year?
And how many years has he had in total so far?
Yeah, I mean,
He's
I don't
still not done
wanna,
with the sidewalk on the first one, because the state gave him problems.
Oh, okay.
I mean.
so what do you suggest, Jennifer? Should we
I
do
mean,
anything, or?
I would just give him what he wants. I don't think he's very amicable.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not like he's never given you a tough time.
No. We keep it, I know we met with Dave to
I
talk
feel like
about the
he's
house.
trying to get the sidewalk done.
And it doesn't sound like
But
it's
that's
the
how he
cheapest
said in his
project,
letter.
doing
The
a sidewalk.
sidewalk's got nothing to do with this one.
But
He
it's
said that
still his
The letter says
property.
it's financing,
Right,
which is, I mean, I.
which is viability
If it's,
too.
I mean, I'm just new here, so if it is about the sidewalk and there's other issues going on, then that's reasonable to give him an extension on the, but I don't see that in here. I don't-
Yeah, Mr. Nicholas isn't here tonight.
Isn't here, so I don't want to put things
So
in the
certainly,
record.
what we can do, certainly up to the commission, is,
But again, I don't really
and Mike
have
knows
issues
this,
until
you know,
months.
we're not going to keep granting, to say, look, one more year,
Good.
and
It's fine.
after that, the commission,
Let me just show my ignorance. What happens if we don't extend it?
he would come back to.
and file it again.
Yeah, he has
It
to, and then
happens-
you
it
can
happens a
decline,
lot.
you can deny it, if it's just a whole new cast of people.
But he's
you
already
know,
built
like-
the house, you said?
No.
No, this
Oh,
is
he
an
hasn't
empty
built-
lot.
He built one of the houses.
Oh, I see.
He
Okay.
has one house built.
Two.
There was a condition for a sidewalk, but it was not linked to this, we gave him the CO for the
This-
completed home. But the sidewalk is conditional upon the CO of the second home.
Right, this,
But he said.
no, the sidewalk
But
was
the
his
sidewalk
idea.
is just our issue, because we were like, what happened to your sidewalk?
The sidewalk was his
If
idea.
you, there's actually a patch of dirt along Tokenique Road that a lot of people use on it, along his property, that's why we asked for the sidewalk.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, but this, I am fine with giving him a 1-year extension.
Jim, any question?
He'll still have to complete
You're
the
a year?
sidewalk in order to get the CO.
I'm
Motion
sorry?
to
You're a
do it.
year?
If he
I
doesn't. get the
was
second.
gonna make a motion for a
I
year.
would entertain a motion on this one.
Yes, move for a year?
Do you have a second?
Second.
Mhm.
All those in favor? Those opposed?
Sorry, we did that fast.
And I'm abstaining. You opposing?
No,
or-
I'm not opposing. I was thinking still. Sorry, I approve.
Okay.
Okay,
I was thinking, I just,
Five approved, one abstention.
got it.
Okay,
Thank
now
you.
approval of July 30, 2019 minutes.
Did you see anything? Did you see anything?
Good.
No, I
People
didn't
are
see
attending were
anything.
Albany, Sini, Cunningham, Random lady, so, Ms. Reeve is not here. In terms of minutes, for the new people,
yeah.
a lot of times, if you go to page 26 of 25,
Yep.
that's a resolution from the prior application, that's a put in minutes. That is kind of quote untouchable.
Okay.
So if you find a mistake in that, can't change it anyway. Because it's already been approved. Then the next one is 9 of 25, that's another resolution starting.
So really, we just sort of
13 of 25 is another one.
write up over what we talked about.
Yeah.
I think we were, I didn't see anything.
14 of 25 is another one. I'm fine with the resolution, so.
I had nothing.
I had nothing.
Nothing?
Motion to, I would entertain a motion to
Oh, I
approve the
should-
minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
3 in favor?
I think
3
you're gonna
abstained because we weren't there, I guess.
Got it.
Yeah, I was there.
Okay.
Project status update, Mr. Ginsberg.
We, as you know, Old Town Hall Homes, corner of Academy Street and Boston Post Road, they got their permit for work above the foundation. The foundation permit, everything came in fine, it's in the right place, and now they're starting work above the foundation with the hopes of finishing a little more than a year from now. 320, 330 Boston Post Road, which is the office buildings across from Trader Joe's and behind Duchess. Work is proceeding on those buildings, new parking lot, new drainage, new signage, new facades, coming along very nicely. If you haven't been back there, it's really, they have some outdoor areas for people who work in the office park.
As this process is continuing, is somebody, Dave or somebody, going and checking the kitchen they're gonna put in and all this snack bar, whatever it was, and,
Or for 320, 330 Post Road, or for,
yeah, across from where that unsuccessful restaurant used to be, the black building.
Correct, the new ones.
What unsuccessful restaurant?
Not sorry.
It was
No,
successful.
no, Centro.
Centro, which
Oh,
is now
yes.
Oxygen Fitness or something.
Dynamic.
That's the building you're talking about, right?
Right, we're talking about the office building, which is, it has the black facade. Yeah, Dave's been in and, you know, talking about the snack bar. I don't think that part of it's done yet, though.
Okay, I'm just,
But yes,
Jim's like, I
New
want to know if I can
landscaping.
get my coffee there.
now that Darien Donut is closed down.
So flustered.
To go.
So flustered.
The majority of the outside stuff gets looked at by Dave, the majority of the inside stuff gets looked at by Peter.
Okay.
What's Peter's last name?
Peter Solheim,
He
the
is the
building
building
official.
inspector.
All right,
Yeah, so,
as long as somebody's doing it.
but we were out there looking at, you know, the parking lots, the drainage, and all that. Similarly for the building in front of it, which is gonna be Orange Theory.
Yes.
Mr. Viccaro's, the outside is all done, and now Orange Theory is just working on their tenant fit out.
Looks nice.
And they're out there every day working.
And they're working on the parking lot, which is between
Between
Theory
Orange-
Building and the
correct.
other one, which is
And the graveyard hasn't been disturbed.
That's correct, that's worked out very well. And in the interim, I'll call it the summer break, if you will, Fred and I continue to meet with others, department heads, with the folks from Federal Realty to talk about their project in Norotan Heights and getting them started. And it's likely that they're gonna start some demolition in October.
That is the federal project.
That's correct.
Now, we'll read the papers and see what's going on with the Palmer's project.
We have
The guy
met with
says
them
it's
as
not
well
moving.
to talk about their project, and The commission, in fact, recently approved some minor changes to their project. They're moving along with construction plans as well. Talked to us about possibly getting demolition permits, let's call it the last quarter of this year, to start demoing. Of course, there's been tenant-related issues, which you've read in the paper. You may know that some other tenants are in the process of moving underneath Palmer's Market, like the post office, for example. They're not quite out yet, last I saw. So the post office is going to be moving in September.
Now, relative to the post office, they put a construction trailer in that parking lot and a mobile post office in that parking lot.
That's correct.
That's in Center Infinity. That never came across our desk.
Right, I did speak to Greg Palmer about that, being that.
Because quote unquote, they took away a parking space.
Right, the federal, what he said, and we talked about that, I said, he said, federal government technically doesn't need P&Z approval. I said, that's true. And so I said, I'm more concerned about you and your other tenants here, because you're going to have 3 or 4 different tenants under the Palmers, and making sure that they're comfortable with 5 or 6 parking spaces being used for a trailer for post office boxes. He says, my tenants are comfortable with that. I said, great.
And the rumor on the street is that green light's moving underneath there too.
That is true.
Okay.
Green what?
Green
Driving
light
school.
where you get your driving education is moving next to Infinity Fitness and the post office.
And I think that's it, right?
There might be one other tenant
There's one
going
other
under there that I
tenant.
can't recall off the top of my head.
Okay. Anything else?
On project status, nope.
Calendar update?
Yep, we're scheduled to meet next week. We're going to cancel that meeting, which is September 10th.
Yeah.
Our next meeting will be September 24th, which will be a public hearing night. There's going to be 9 public hearings on the agenda. There's nothing major in the batch of them. The only one that may be of interest would be a generator for this building. So, but all the others are, at least at this point, seem fairly uneventful.
I personally did not sync my calendar yet, the back to school nights. Did anybody else sync through? The 24th rolled over that.
There was an
It's
issue
Thursday.
with, yeah.
The back to school nights for all the schools is done by the middle of September.
By September 24th, they're all done.
Okay, so we don't have any issues with that.
Yeah.
No, there's issues with back to school and other things, but not this.
Right, okay. So we just canceled the 10th.
Yes, correct.
October, you talked about that. We're good for that?
Yeah, we're too soon to tell in October. We'll know better in a couple weeks.
Any other business?
No.
Entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Ooh, that's fine on that one. I'm gonna give it to her.
Seconded.
I
Okay.
got a second. All
I'm
those
in favor.
Yes. All right, well done.
On the record,